Sattler Files.
And welcome back to the Sattler Files. I'm Tricia Duffield, and we're talking education solutions with Carol Brands. Hello, Carol.
Hi, Trish.
We haven't spoken for so long.
Oh, it's been an age.
It's been an age, but the same principles still apply to what you do, which is you're a tutor and you talk about education solutions. And today we're talking about thinking outside the box. Now, of course, that's a great way to think outside the box, but what do you mean when you say thinking outside the box?
Children these days are kept very securely in a box. They are taught certain subjects in a very specific way to fit in with the curriculum framework and the exams they're going to have to do when they get older. And we start this when they're in pre-primary,
right?
When they're 5 years old. What we need to be doing is teaching them to think, teaching them to be creative, teaching them to be brave in the way they access things and chase things and to have ideas and put them together and generally enjoy what they're doing.
Now, the sad thing, I guess, is that when children are really little, because they don't have the same language skills and the same motor skills, that as parents, we do all sorts of things with them to try and get that process happening. And we do it quite naturally, don't we?
We do. We sing This Little Piggy Went to Market and we play with their toes. And we sing Ba Ba Black Sheep, Have You Any Wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. And then we start teaching them to count. We start teaching them rhyme. We start teaching them language. We start teaching them about their bodies by that sort of thing and by taking them to the park and pushing them on a swing, showing them how to slide down a slide and not fall flat on their face at the bottom. All of those things we do before they get to school.
And then what happens when they get to school? You'd like to think, and I'm thinking as an optimist, we just add to that and we start teaching them all these other things on top of that.
We probably do in kindy and pre-primary. Although even in pre-primary, I notice now my grandson is being taught to write sentences in pre-primary at 5. And really, he's not ready. I don't know whether every other 5-year-old, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So we start getting them into the reading, writing, spelling and maths from a very early age. We don't get them into learning the basics and understanding for themselves the way language works. We don't sing them songs and play games with them. So they get to 8 or 9, and a lot of the kids I tutor at 8 and 9 don't know a whole range of stuff they need as the foundation to build other things on.
So what sort of things as a tutor would you be wanting to see parents doing, but more particularly would you like to see happening in a classroom?
Wow, parents, probably different to a classroom, but you can do some of these in a classroom. For instance, I have half a dozen games that I play with my kids that I tutor. I play dominoes with them.
Right. Now,
you don't just match a 6 with a 6 or an 8 with an 8. My kids learn that if they've got an 8 and they don't have an 8 in their hand, what else could you put down? Well, you could put a 4 and a 4 because that makes 8. Or a 6 and a 2 because that makes 8. Or a 7 and a 1 because that makes 8. So while they're playing a game, they're playing dominoes and they're enjoying what they're doing. It's not writing sums and doing maths. They're also learning number combinations at the same time. So that's dominoes. That's one. You may remember Boggle.
Yep.
Great game.
That was a great game.
Yeah. And as adults, we played it a lot with our older kids.
Yes.
I use it with kids as young as 5.
Right.
Because you shake the Boggle.
Yep.
And they can choose any letters anywhere that make a word. They don't have to be touching like they did for us adults.
Yeah.
So they learn to spell. They learn that CAT, anywhere on that, spells cat. And they make lists of words playing Boggle, and they get points for every word. Consequently, they race against the clock to get as many words as they can. It improves their spelling, their reading, their thinking.
What else should be in those kit bags? Because I'm thinking now Christmas. I'm thinking everyone should be listening to this and, forget all the other stuff. Buy some of these things to have at home. What would be another one?
Okay, well, there's Boggle numbers now as well. So you can say, okay, guys, you've got 5 minutes. I want you to put together as many of those numbers as you can that add up to 10. So if there's a 7 and a 3, great. But if there's 2 3s showing and a 1 and I don't know, whatever the next number is that makes it up to 10, they can use 3 or 4 or 5 numbers to make it up to 10. Once they're good at that, you say, okay, now I want you to make 12 with the numbers that you've got. So you've got number Boggle as well as letter Boggle. Now, then there's this wonderful game called Kim's Game. Kim's Game was actually from a Rudyard Kipling story about a young boy in India who became a spy for the English, and he had to learn to remember things. So the person who taught him actually taught him Kim's Game. You start off with 7 objects. Those 7 objects you remember. Then they're covered over and you have to say them. Okay, so you teach them to break them into colours or shapes or uses or make a story about them. And you cover them. The next time they have 8, then 9, then 10. What it does is it stretches, their storytelling, because one of my girls comes up with the most amazing stories for her objects. Then they eventually develop a much better memory pattern. They can actually look at something or read something and remember it. Does wonders for their reading comprehension. Which sounds strange, but works.
So I'm seeing classrooms that are just a whole lot more fun if we had these sort of things. Now, of course, at the same time as we're getting, curriculum or curriculi that, is it curriculi? Plural? Curricula, of course. Curricula that are narrowing how our kids learn and what they're learning. We also have technology that I imagine for you at the coalface there, you're looking at how we can use it really well to do all these things and how it's also diminishing. So if we as parents, teachers, grandparents, whatever, want to embrace technology because our kids are going to have to use it, but not lose all this amazing ways of learning, how can we do that?
Well, you can play Boggle on the computer.
So all of this you can do on the computer. So it doesn't make any difference that it's not a board game as such or not a pack of cards or whatever. That doesn't matter.
I find the younger the child, the better it is to have concrete materials they can touch and feel and, right? As the kids get older, because they're so computer literate these days, they just translate from the concrete to the abstract and do it on the computer in the same way.
So it's not, we don't have to have that discussion about, back in the day with the technology. The technology is just a way of delivering.
Just a way of delivering
making sure you have some of these things in place. All right, so I imagine parents would just lap this stuff up because most parents want to go, or grandparents, yes, it's really easy to just go out and bring that into the home and off you go and play the game. In a classroom, it's a bit different. How can we encourage our education institutions to also embrace, this way of thinking?
Okay, schools' biggest problem is they don't have much money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have a limited budget. But there are some fabulous books out there that you can get that you can photocopy and use, that are photocopy free, that you can use. So, for instance, I have the most wonderful book called Amazing Mazes.
Right, I'm writing it down.
Amazing Mazes. Each page has a maze on it, and they start fairly simple, and they get very complicated, and they have a quote across the top. So, for instance, one might be, where in America is the shuttle, the space shuttle, displayed? And then they'll have 3 answers in the middle of the maze.
Right.
And you have to follow the maze around to work out where the space shuttle is housed.
Right.
So they're learning a fact, which is interesting, And at the same time, they're developing the skill that a maze brings, which is all so good for so many other learning experiences.
Yeah.
Now, I have another book called Spot the Difference.
Writing it down, Karen.
So, Spot the Difference, you have two pictures.
Yep.
They look identical.
Oh, yes.
But there are 10 differences.
Yep.
It might be colour, it might be... One yesterday, I could not find the 10th difference until the little girl I was working with went, "Are the birds flying backwards?" So they changed the colour of things, they reversed the angle of things. A little boy had a backpack on, the backpack was undone in one and done up in the other. So some of the differences are very little. It teaches them to focus, to concentrate, and to look effectively rather than just let it wash over. Then there's another book you can get that's got pictures in it. You give the child 2 minutes to look at the picture and then you take it off them and they've got to answer 10 questions.
Oh, yes.
How many birds were in the picture?
Yes.
Was anyone wearing spots? Did anyone have a number on them?
Do you know what?
What number was it?
If you learn that skill later on in life, you can go on any show that's got Eddie Maguire or Grant Denyer, Spicks and Specks, all those skills. Because, we, as adults, we love playing those games.
Yes, we do.
And it's funny that there seems to be this big grey patch in the middle that's called education, where we don't play all those games. And it's such a shame because, there's no point in your life that you don't actually enjoy those games that test your memory, your attention to detail, your general knowledge. We love it. It's the way we learn about things and continue to learn.
And any job you get, you're going to need all of those skills. You're going to need attention to detail. You're going to need to pick up the mistakes to see where you've gone wrong and go, and correct it without it being a major freak out.
Yep.
So we do a whole range of those games. And when I tutor, I will start with a game, I will do a game somewhere in the middle, and I will do a game at the end. Because for nearly all of the kids, that keeps them motivated, excited, and wanting to work. Because they know that they really need to get moving and do the work so they'll have time to play the games. What they don't usually get until they get older, like my 16-year-old knows that, it's fun to do this and it's all the con to get him to do it.
That Miss Brands, she's a trick. Yeah, it was all work.
for nearly all of them, it's just we want to have fun. And they don't understand they're learning at the same time.
Now, is there a value in Twister? Because if there is, I'm coming to your place to play it.
And, maybe we should talk about that later because the physical aspect is so important.
I knew Twister was important.
Absolutely.
I've always known Twister. Of
Yep.
course, with a little bit of, like a bit of imbibing along the way makes it more interesting.
Well,
but
yes.
Twister's important.
But everything from hopscotch through to Twister has an educational value. And we seem to forget that a lot these days.
Carol, the way you think outside the box, honestly, if we could learn like that, we would have fun and we would continue learning. Carol Brands from Education Solutions, thank you so much for chatting today. It's been fantastic catching up with you again.
No worries.
You've been listening to the Sattler Files and I'm Tricia Duffield.
This is the Sattler Files.